Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Chu. I'm a Microsoft technical trainer. I'm here to walk you through the AZ-800 Administering Windows Server Hybrid Core Infrastructure course. Let's get started. In this session, we'll focus on tasks and tools for facilitating hybrid management. You'll learn how to administer and manage Windows Server IaaS virtual machines remotely, manage hybrid workloads with Azure Arc, and get practical experience using Windows Administer in hybrid scenarios. Let's begin by looking at how to administer and manage Windows Server IaaS virtual machines remotely. This is a key skill for IT professionals working in hybrid environments, as it allows you to efficiently manage resources regardless of their location. There are several tools available for remote administration. Azure Portal, the central hub for managing Azure resources. Windows Administer, a browser-based tool for managing servers. Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI, command line tools for automation. Run command, execute scripts on VMs, even if they are not directly reachable. And last but definitely not least, Azure Cloud Shell, an online shell with pre-installed tools. We will use these tools to complete management tasks in the lab at the end of this session. Just-in-time JIT administration allows you to temporarily open network ports for remote access, reducing exposure to attacks. You enable JIT for VMs through Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Define the network ports, and Defender for Cloud imposes a deny all inbound traffic rule for your selected ports using NSD. Remember, JIT is a paid feature for Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Select the VM you want to enable for JIT in Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Configure the ports, protocol, and allowed source IPs. And finally, max request time. Save your configuration. Alternatively, you can enable JIT from the VM's security blade in the Azure portal. Azure Bastion provides secure RDP and SSH connectivity to VMs in your virtual network. No public IPs needed for the VMs themselves. The Bastion host is deployed in the VNet, and you can connect to your VM via the Azure portal using browser. Sessions are secured over TLS. To deploy an Azure Bastion host, create a subnet named Azure Bastion Subnet with a /27 prefix in your VNet. In the Azure portal, open the VNet, select subnets, and add the required subnet. Deploy the Bastion host by searching for bastions in the portal and following the creation steps. To connect to a VM using Azure Bastion from the Azure portal, first, navigate to the VM in the Azure portal. Select Connect, and then Bastion. Enter your credentials and then connect. Now, let's shift our focus to managing hybrid workloads with Azure Arc. Azure Arc enables you to manage servers, Kubernetes clusters, and data services across on-prem, multi-cloud, and edge environments, all from the Azure portal. Azure Arc provides a centralized, unified, and self-service approach to managing Windows Server, Linux Server, Kubernetes clusters, and Azure data services. It extends cloud practices like DevOps and security to on-prem, multi-cloud, and edge environments, and enables companies to run Azure data services anywhere. To onboard Windows Server instances to Azure Arc, you need to first deploy Azure Arc to your on-prem or hybrid cloud computers. Then ensure you have the right permissions. Next, install the Azure Connected Machine Agent. Onboarding brings your servers under Azure Resource Manager-based management. Azure Arc enables you to deploy VM extensions to both non-Azure Windows and Linux VMs, simplifying management. Examples include custom script extension, run script on virtual machines, Azure Monitor Agent, collect monitoring data. VM extensions provide post-deployment configuration and automation tasks. For a complete list, see the Azure Arc documentation. Azure Arc lets you extend Azure policy to your on-prem and multi-cloud servers. Azure Policy is a service that helps organizations manage and evaluate compliance using declarative rules. Azure Policy with Azure Arc means you can apply the same governance and compliance standards to all your servers, no matter where they run. With Azure Arc, you can enforce compliance when provisioning new resources, audit compliance of existing resources, remediate non-compliance, audit compliance of the OS, application configuration, and environment settings with Azure virtual machines. Assigning policies to your Arc-enabled servers is straightforward. In the Azure portal, go to Azure Arc and select Manage Servers. Choose the server you want and then select Policies. And finally, assign the appropriate policy to ensure compliance. You can use built-in policy definitions or create your own to meet your organization's needs. This unified approach helps maintain security and compliance across your entire hybrid environment. Managing access is crucial for security. Azure Role-Based Access Control, RBAC, allows you to check access for users and groups, assign roles and manage permissions, set deny assignments and manage classic administrators. With Azure Arc, you can integrate non-Azure workloads, including those on AWS and GCP, into Azure services like Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Deploying the Azure Arc agent lets you manage and secure all your workloads from a single control plane. Now, it's time for us to get a practical experience in Lab 4. In this lab, you will use Windows Admin Center in a hybrid environment with different versions of Windows Server running both on-prem and in Azure virtual machines. You'll test the capabilities of Windows Admin Center, ensuring a consistent management experience regardless of where your servers are running. In this lab, we will use Windows Admin Center in hybrid scenarios. First, let's create some Azure resources using Azure Resource Manager templates. We first log in the Azure portal, and then we will click the button to launch Azure Cloud Shell, and we will select PowerShell. So if you launch PowerShell for the very first time, you need to choose whether to mount storage account with the Cloud Shell. So here I will create a new storage account, which will be used for this Azure Cloud Shell. I will do some configuration for this storage account. Select the region in which the data will be stored. And I will choose a unique storage account name and set up a name for the file share which will be created within this storage account. Okay, the storage account is configured and the Azure Cloud Shell is launched. Next, we will upload the JSON templates into this Azure Cloud Shell. So we will choose Upload, and we will browse for the templates. So we will choose all of these files and have them uploaded into the file share we created earlier. The next step is to create the Azure resources. So I have already copied and pasted the commands to be used into this notepad so that we can save some time. Here I will copy the commands, and then I will paste them into the Azure Cloud Shell. You can also use the built-in editor within the Azure Cloud Shell. So let's take a look. All right, so we can click the editor button and we can take a closer look at the JSON templates. So the first one is the templates for creating the resource group, and the next one is all about the template creating the virtual machine. Okay? So let's switch back to the notepad and copy the commands for creating the Azure resource group. So we will create the resource group in East US region. Okay, so the resource group is created. And for the next step, we will create Azure Virtual Machine from the template. So you will be prompted for the local administrator of the operating system in the Azure Virtual Machine. So here I'll just type in administrator. And then type in the password. And let's see what will happen. Okay. An error message is shown here. Since this virtual machine is a Windows operating system, so we need to actually choose a different local administrator username. So here we just choose another one and type in the password. All right, it worked this time. Cool. So let's just minimize the Azure Cloud Shell. And as you can see here, a new Azure virtual machine was created. Next up, let's switch to the virtual network. And what we will do next is we will create a virtual network gateway, subnet. So we click Settings within the virtual network. And we will create a new subnet for the virtual network gateway. We can simply choose the virtual network gateway from the drop-down list. So what we will do is we will select virtual network gateway from the subnet purpose drop-down list. And then we will change a little bit on the starting address for this subnet. All right, and then we can click Add. After this subnet is established, we will switch to the Windows Admin Center to set up the Azure Network Adapter. All right, so we will first launch the Windows PowerShell as an administrator. And we will download the Windows Admin Center. And this time, we will do the installation of the Windows Admin Center with the graphic user interface. Remember, in the previous lab, we did that in a silent mode. But this time, I would like to show you folks how to do the setup with the wizard. All right. Let's first find the installation package. And then we will launch the installation. We click Next. And the installation process begins. Here, we will use the pre-installed TLSL certificate. Or you can also generate a self-signed certificate. So for the demo purpose, we will choose the self-signed certificate. So that's why you see notification from the Microsoft Edge browser indicating that the connection to the Windows Admin Center is not safe, because here we chose self-signed certificate. All right, in production environment, you should use the first setting. All right, the installation is complete. Okay, then we can start the Windows Admin Center. So you just accept the self-assigned certificate. And we will type in the local domain administrator username and password. All right. So remember, for the very first launch, you may wait until the extensions are ready. So you can simply relaunch the Windows Administrator. And then you can see the extensions are available. So let's click it and click Review and Complete. All right, let's close this one. And all of the extensions will be updated to the latest. So here we will click the Networks. And we can click Add Azure Virtual Network Adapter Preview. So this will guide us to register Windows Admin Center to Azure. So let's click this button. And let's click Register. So for the very first step to do the registration, you need to copy the code for the authentication. So you open a new tab in your browser. And you need to paste the code to do the authentication. So this will authenticate to the Microsoft Entra ID. Let's click Next. Let's use the lab user account within the Entra ID for the authentication. And let's click Continue. Okay, so now we can safely close the tab and continue with our registration process. And then the next step for us is to create a Microsoft Entra application within the Entra ID tenant. So let's click Connect. And now we can click the final step, and that is to sign into Azure. So we are getting access to the application we just created. So we click Accept to do the user consent. So this will complete the registration of Windows Admin Center in Azure. So the very last step for us is to deploy the Windows Admin Center gateway in Azure. We add an Azure network adapter. So we will select Azure network adapter creation process, choose the location as East US region. And here, as you can see, we will use the subnet we pre-created earlier. All right, and we will deploy a virtual network gateway. So we will change the client address space. So this will deploy a VPN gateway in the gateway subnet. And here, for the demonstration purpose, we will select self-generated certificate. This concludes our session. You've learned how to manage, secure, and govern hybrid environments using Azure tools and best practices. There are many ways to continue your learning journey. We encourage you to watch other videos in this course, or search out your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.